Hey everybody, Jacob Boyer here, and welcome back to another episode of the Watchlist Podcast. I'm sorry the audio quality is different, but I'm recording this introduction a while after this episode was shot. So you're about to listen to the Hannah Fierman episode, which I believe was recorded sometime last fall. A lot of the stuff we talk about is unfortunately out of date in terms of the projects she's working on and what she's doing. I do feel kind of bad about that. Especially considering we plugged an Indiegogo campaign that is now long over, but the good news is the movie ended up getting funded, and now it's been shot, and now we're just waiting for it to come out. So please find a way to support the Time's Up movie by Damien Maffei. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, and starring Hannah Fierman. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, now that I'm back on a semi-regular schedule, this will hopefully be the last time I have to do one of these disclaimers beforehand. But really quick, while I have your attention, please also check out the Buttery Mails podcast, which I am a co-host on. You can find links to check out that podcast in the description below. And also keep an eye out for my other podcast I recently started, Whatever This Is. It's going to be airing during the off weeks where the Watchlist podcast doesn't have an episode coming out. And it's just going to be me and my friends talking about movies and stuff that we've watched lately. It's a little bit more of a laid-back type of podcast compared to the Watchlist, but I still think it's really fun to listen to, and it's definitely been fun to make so far. So, yeah. Enough of me talking to you. Now let's transition to me talking to Hannah Fierman. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Watchlist Podcast. Today I'm joined by actress Hannah Fierman. How are you doing today?
Hey Jacob. Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
Thank you so much for coming on. It really means a lot that you blocked out your time to do this. I've been a fan of your work for a while now, so it means a lot that you were willing to do the show.
Yeah, no problem. I'm quarantining, so I don't really have a lot to do.
So has that allowed for more time to sort of like plan out what your next, I don't know, like your next gig will be, or is you just kind of waiting for offers to come your way?
Yeah, I had one movie that was postponed that we were supposed to shoot in April that we're shooting now. I'm going to start on the 10th. It's called On Location, and it's we're shooting it in Ohio and in the middle of nowhere, so that makes me feel a lot more comfortable because the cast is going to be very small, and they're going to try to keep it to not a skeleton crew, but as much as they can. And Ohio and Cincinnati in particular have just done a really stellar job at controlling the virus. I think they're probably one of the best states.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot better than Georgia, which is where I am.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I don't even like to go outside here. It's just like COVID country. But yeah. So that's what I'm gonna do. It's a horror movie, and like I said, it's in the middle of nowhere in the woods. So
definitely will help out for the getting into that horror mindset, shooting in the middle of nowhere.
Yes. And if you knew the premise of the movie, you would not realize just how spot on you are with that statement. What's it called again? I'm sorry? On Location.
On Location. I'll have to look for that whenever that makes its rounds. So I guess to sort of rewind, one question I always ask anybody who does any sort of creative thing that comes on the show is, whenever I listen to interviews with directors or writers or actors that about how they got their start or what
got them interested in filmmaking or acting or whatever their field might be, they typically kind of say that they always had like an inherent interest in wanting to be involved in the field, but there was one moment or one movie or one performance in particular that like really pushed them over the edge and made them believe, yeah, that's what I want to do. Do you have a moment like that in your background, or was it always just kind of something you knew you wanted to do?
Yeah, well, I started performing when I was like around 3 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, just I went to a very artsy school when I was a child, and both my father and my mother are very artistic. My father's more of a performance kind of guy. He can do lots of voices. It was great when I was a kid because he'd read us stories and it was just like Robin Williams. It was great. And my mom's an artist and she used to perform in plays, so they just immediately put me into it too, because it's fun. And I just never stopped. I remember the first performance I really remember, I think I was probably 4. And yeah, I guess I was hooked ever since.
So was it a lot of like theater, or like when did you make that jump into film then?
I shot my first feature when I was 17, I think. At least I started filming it when I was 17, I think. And that was an indie comedy. And I played a supporting role, and it never got finished, which was a shame because it was a hilarious script to me back then. I don't know if it would stand up today, because it was a long time ago, but yeah, that's when I first did my first supporting role was then.
Was that so? The one other thing that I find very funny, you had mentioned in one of your emails when we were setting this up, is that obviously a big crux of the show is the film recommendation portion, which we'll get to later, but you had said that you would prefer to not watch scary movies because while you act in them, you don't particularly like them. So I'm curious, what made you want to be involved in horror movies then, if it's such a turnoff for you, I guess?
Well, I like the filmmakers in the genre. I like the freedom that the genre gives to the artist, and a lot of my friends were indie horror filmmakers, and I recognized how talented they were, and I wanted to work with them, and they wanted to work with me. So I just love acting, and it's fun acting on horror sets too. It's not as much fun for me to watch them though. I get scared. I watch my own, and I'm proud of my performance, and I'm proud of the artistry that goes into it when there is artistry that goes into it. I don't always make good movies, but I appreciate it for what it is. It's difficult to frighten people. It's difficult to make them feel that uncomfortable, and especially the real mind fucky ones. It's a true art form.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it for a lot of different reasons, but I guess those are the main ones. Plus, they cast me.
That's always a plus. Yeah. So then, I have to say, so I think a lot of people know about you primarily from your role in David Bruckner's segment from VHS. That was how I first found out about you, and I gotta say it was I don't know if it was great timing or poor timing, but I had just seen this horror movie where a big chunk of it takes place in a hotel, and there was a very creepy atmosphere, and I had just been, like, just by pure circumstances with my life, I had been in several hotels recently, and after seeing that movie, so I was very sort of creeped out by that whole environment based off of that unrelated movie I saw. And then just when I was starting to get over that fear, I rented VHS and I saw your segment, and I just it reignited that fear all over again. I couldn't walk down a like an office building type stairwell without imagining you poking your head around the corner and having your head split open down the middle. So I don't. That's I think a really big testament to your acting capability that you could just instill that in somebody with just a look. So, just as a weird aside, but yeah, what was making VHS like? How did that come about?
It was David Bruckner and Nick Dukowski's idea. They were hired to do an anthology and told to be gratuitous and gritty, and ran with it. And I knew both of them previously and some of their work. And David asked me to do it. And I was just like, yeah, okay. You know, 'cause he's very charismatic and has a wonderful way of storytelling that really gets you pumped and excited about it, even if it's not necessarily a topic you were previously interested in.
I can imagine that having that sort of charisma to talk you into it was very important given your stance on horror films.
It didn't, yeah, I wouldn't say it talking me into it, more as like walking me through the vision. And
Okay.
Showing me how to appreciate the nuance versus me being like, you want me to do what?
That was actually one thing I wanted to ask you about, because I was listening to the commentary for the movie a few days ago, and he had mentioned that there was some extra like prosthetic effect they wanted to give you to enhance. There was something like with contact lenses or something like that, and what I really liked is he had quoted you as saying, "We don't need that. I can do what you need me to do." And I definitely like. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but the only real effect that you have, I mean, obviously later it's enhanced, but the only real effect they had on you for most of it is that like line on your forehead. The rest of it was all you.
Yeah, the head splitting open was definitely not me, but yeah, well, I had prosthetic teeth and nails and toenails, and yeah, they just did this with makeup on me for that, and this stuff called rigid collodium, something like, where they like squish your skin together really tight and then put this glue down the middle so it looks like a scar.
Right. Yeah.
They did that in the beginning, and it took forever for that line to go away. After they took away the stuff, it was just like I had this line there for like weeks and weeks, and I'm like, is this permanent? Is this ever going away? I don't let people put that stuff on me anymore.
That's too funny though.
It looks really cool, but I'm just like, I've done so many movies where they put that on my face, and it's like so tedious to get off, and it takes forever to do it properly, and I always get irritated and end up pulling it off and just pulling off the top layer of my skin. So I'm just like, no more of that, please. I just do like silicone. I'm cool with. I don't mind that.
Gotcha. But yeah, no, it's just I can't stress enough how like that whole performance is what really ties that whole thing together, and it's like there's so much subtlety in it, and they're like just because you don't have much dialogue at all, really. There's only maybe I think like 3 lines or so that you say in that entire short. So how did you? I can imagine it like I don't have much acting experience myself, but I can imagine when you're given sort of that much of a blank slate to work with, it can kind of appear a little daunting at first. But I mean, you had a lot of experience, obviously, so maybe it didn't come across that way to you. But how did you sort of get into that character and like really figure out who she was and what made her tick?
Yeah, I did not find it daunting. I felt, I actually think we cut out some dialogue. I definitely did in Siren, because I just felt like it made sense that she would have a limited vocabulary. Mm-hmm. And, you know, mostly I wanted her to be this misunderstood monster, so I felt like limiting her in that way was was natural and endearing, and at the same time confusing. And I didn't have, like, the physicality of it was just already there, like an innocent, misunderstood sex demon. I don't know. I didn't have a hard time with it. We went over some movement. We auditioned a few different types of weird movement that I could do. And then also I had my stunt double, who was also my stunt coordinator, Elizabeth Davidovich, is a contortionist. And so she did a lot of that contortionist stuff that you see edited in there, you know, because it's the nature of the found footage. You can make a cut anywhere you want,
right.
You know. So she played all the contortionist and like stunt aspects of that entire movie were her and her crew. So yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it did. Yeah. So then, you mentioned Siren there, because that was one thing. I was a little bit. I wasn't sure how to feel about that movie existing, because I really liked that. There wasn't much. Just looking at the VHS segment, there wasn't really much of an origin at all for your character, and there's not really like. There's just not a whole lot of answers given, so I was a little apprehensive about watching that movie because I almost didn't want that mystery ruined. But I think that Siren is definitely a very good accompaniment to VHS. So what was it like returning to that role and making that movie now that you don't have the found footage aspect going for it?
Well, I wasn't as excited about doing Siren as I was VHS, because VHS I got to work with all my friends. Like pretty much everybody on that shoot is a very good friend of mine, or at least, I mean, is now anyway. Almost everyone, and so it was a lot. I felt a lot more comfortable doing it. Siren was it was a challenge. It was a little daunting because it was just so many years later too. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to do it. But you know, it was just such a baby to me, something that me and David and Nick created, and everybody else, you know, we created together. And it was kind of hard to let that go into the hands of entirely new cast and crew. But they did an amazing job, I think. I like the narrative form better than the found footage, just simply because I prefer to watch it. I don't like the steady cam very much. It makes me feel a little nauseated.
Right.
You know, the shaky cam, I mean.
Yeah.
But it was also a feature-length version of it. So, you know, it's making indie movies is wonderful, but it's also grueling. And we shot it all at night, and it was just really stressful. But I think that the movie turned out even better than I thought it would.
Yeah, I definitely, as just a fan of the segment, like I said, I mean, I was very apprehensive about watching it, and like I imagine, like you had said, having sort of like to play that like titular character who's now like become sort of a modern horror icon. It must have been very like you said, like maybe we don't want to mess with this too much going into it, but I think that the final result was very it turned out very well. A very good accompaniment to the short.
I liked the script. I thought the talent was fantastic. Especially Justin Welborn. I think he really stole the show. I think he did an amazing job. Yeah, he always does though. I did think that it didn't actually lend any real insight into her, maybe a little bit into her background, but you still have no idea where she comes from, where this land of succubi are, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
How she got to the earth in the first place, and you know, and you know, I think it could be explored further. Maybe with just like a whole bunch of succubuses.
If there's a good idea down the line, maybe we'll see the return of the siren. I would very much look forward to it.
Is it succubi or succubuses?
I have no clue, but that can be the new octopi versus octopuses argument, I guess, the horror version of that. But yeah, no. So one other project of yours that I wanted to touch on that I really, really liked was a short film you did, American Hell. I really liked the performance in that. Very different, than VHS. Like, I think your character in VHS almost comes across as more of like trying to fit in, but still having this side of her that comes out. Whereas American Hell you were just straight up like devious and evil. So what was it like making that?
I really liked working with Robert Bryce Milbourne. He's really hands off, but he knows what he wants. So it was just a good combination for me. We were just lucky, I guess. But it just really worked easily. I just was as nuts as I wanted, and he liked it, so it was cool. Yeah. That shoot was difficult for many reasons, but one of them was because we were shooting in the most disgusting location. It was just like
it definitely comes across when you watch it.
I mean, they had to get the rats out.
Oh no.
And the like old, like, I don't know, heroin addict needles and mattress out of the location before we could shoot there. and it was just so filthy. And and my wardrobe boots, for some reason they kept cutting the backs of my legs, and we couldn't figure out where it was coming from. Like, every time I'd squat down, I'd slice my leg, and not really deep, but just like, and make me be like, what, did I scratch myself on some heroin needle? Like, what? Like, what kind of bacteria? Anyway, so yeah, that was an excellent shoot. I hope to work with them again. I've worked with Bryce again on a short that he did called Double 13, where I actually played Satan, but like a really flamboyant, androgynous, funny, mischievous version of Satan. And that was fun too. It's just great working with the dude. He's really chill.
I just find that I just can't get over the whole like not wanting to watch horror movies, but yet you like fit into it so well. I think that really speaks to your ability as an actress to just sort of like inhabit the role so perfectly that it's like so beyond what you as yourself are comfortable watching. So it's, I don't know, I just find that really, really cool.
My friends think it's hilarious. They're like, they think it's so funny because the characters are just so nothing like my personality whatsoever. And I get teased a lot about it. That's okay. You know, I mean, there's some horror movies that I think are wonderful. Let me think. You know, what was that? Let me think. The Sixth Sense, I thought was fantastic.
Yeah,
you know,
that's another good one.
Scared the crap out of me. I mean, obviously, The Shining's a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, in some ways, like, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is a little bit horrific with Nurse Ratched, and
I agree with that.
I feel like, I feel like it's such a flexible genre that saying that you don't like horror movies is ridiculous, because you're gonna be some horror movie you like. Like, I just watched Jaws, you know. Just, you know, so I can't say that I don't like to watch horror movies. I just don't like to watch some horror movies.
Right.
And I don't think that the ones I've made are ones that I would want to watch.
So that is that like when you do like go to like let's say you're watching you're watching like the rough cut of VHS, are you like hiding behind somebody or like not looking at the screen even though you know what's coming, or how does that usually go?
It's so stupid. Yeah, I hide in my husband's shoulder, and I'm like, "Can I look?" And he's like, "No."
Oh, that's too good. So
yeah.
I think I forget who said it. I think it was John Carpenter. He had said something like, and you touched on it earlier, that horror is just one of those genres it's been around since the beginning of film, and it's just always gonna sort of be there. Like there's like, and it, I don't know. It's just it's like comedy. It's a universal language. Like you could watch a horror movie with the audio completely turned off and still get the same effect. So I think it's a very powerful genre, and I think that you work very, very well in it.
Thank you.
So then I guess moving on to not horror related stuff, one other question that I like to ask every guest who comes on is what's your favorite movie? Or movies if you can't narrow it down.
I like Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, Princess Bride, the original 101 Dalmatians. You can tell I'm like so G-rated over here. You know, movies. Oh, I really love Silverado, the Western.
Right.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of my favorite horror movie, but it's not coming to me right now. After being in quarantine for a while, I kind of turned into a goldfish. Like, I think it's the lack of communicating with multiple people. I've just been forgetting.
I think that's kind of inherent with everybody. Is just everyone's like, attention span is so shortened.
It's so shortened. I'll have one thing to do, and I'll forget to do it. Yeah, those are all the ones I can think of right now. I've been watching a lot of TV too, and I don't know if you want to know, but I just watched The Great on Hulu.
I've heard about that. I haven't seen it yet, though. I heard it was really good.
It's so good. Yeah. And I just watched this movie last night. It was called Get Duked, and it's the stupidest.
I don't think I've heard of that one.
It's the stupidest. It's the stupidest comedy, but it was just what I needed to watch. It was so ridiculous and silly. It's on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And, yeah.
So yeah, anyone listening, if you want a good comedy, go watch Get Duked. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll definitely check it out.
It really screwed me up. It was about this group of boys who are going around the Scottish Highlands, and Eddie Izzard is hunting them. And I guess that's all you really need to know.
You've definitely sold me. I'll definitely be sure to check that out sometime, and I'll let you know my thoughts. But yeah, so then I guess you mentioned it for a second earlier, but moving on to the film discussion portion of the show. So for anyone tuning in for the first time, how this works is I recommend the guest a movie, the guest recommends me a movie, and we discuss. But I found it funny that when we were trying to work out that part of the show, you had seen a lot of the movies that I had suggested. So congratulations, you stumped the chump. So so yeah, no, we settled on two. Because you put out a list with Silverado being on there. I kind of wish that I'd gone back and watched that one now that I know that it's one of your favorites. But again, I'll just have to check that out sometime and follow up with you on it. But the movies we'll be discussing today are What We Do in the Shadows and Gandahar / Light Years. So I guess we can go into What We Do with the Shadows first then. So anyone who hasn't seen it, there's also a successful television show based off that movie, but it's essentially a mockumentary about a group of vampires just living their night-to-night lifestyle. So tell me, what do you think about What We Do in the Shadows?
Oh, I just thought the whole premise was brilliant. And the cast that they chose was they just completely submersed themselves and understood what they were making, and it was just such an original thing. And they just really took the comedy of the potential comedy of being a vampire in modern times, and the stupid little things that you would, be confronted with on a daily basis that you wouldn't think about being a normal human being, like having to be invited into a nightclub, and they're like, because the bouncer isn't inviting them in, but they can't go in unless they get them. And it's just hilarious. Just the situational humor is just wonderful.
And I love the writing too. It's very unpredictable in the way that, like, all the sort of, not necessarily like twists in like a theatrical sense, but all of like the weird avenues it goes down with, like, spoilers if you haven't seen the movie yet, but when they have to like teach the younger guy how to become a vampire, and like trying to wrangle him in when he's like out telling everybody that they're vampires and all that. And like just the dynamic they have with like their human friends. The performances in that movie are fantastic, and I think it really speaks to Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement's ability to sort of improvise on the spot and come up with really, really hilarious dialogue and situations.
I loved it. I guess, that would be one of my top favorite movies too.
Again, funny enough, because not a lot of people consider that one to be a horror movie, but I'd argue that it has
Did I say
some
horror?
good... What's that?
Did I say horror?
No, but it is very much a horror comedy, I would say. A lot of people think of it as a straight-up comedy, but I think that there's very... there's definitely some themes there that are like, there's like little jump scares, or definitely there's horror elements to appreciate, and I think as well. And I think it adds to the hilarity of the situation, like just like knowing, oh yeah, we have this roommate down in the basement who we have to throw in a chicken every once in a while to keep him calm. I don't know. It blends both of those genres very, very well, I think, even though I would consider it primarily a comedy.
Yeah, it's got a lot of gore. So. Oh
yeah. Did you have to not look for any of that movie, or were you just laughing too hard?
That one was totally fine. I don't think I looked away, except for maybe the Pischetti. The Pischetti kind of got me.
The Pischetti.
That was gross.
Oh man, it's I love because I don't know off the top of my head what the budget was, but I want to say it was a relatively low budget movie. I love what they're able to achieve with a lot of the practical effects they have, like with the like people walking on the walls and the ceiling, and the I don't know, just the even though there's definitely like moments where it's like, okay, they had to go back and add that in post. I love that how practical everything about that movie is. It really comes across I don't know the word for it. It really comes across like it was made with a lot of care and attention to detail.
Yeah. I wonder what the bat fight, how they did that. Then maybe puppets?
Probably, yeah. Or maybe that was one of the few CGI bits, but I love that too. When they just like bat fight. It's just like angles that you wouldn't think about, or the like the little rivalry they have with the werewolf chapter of supernatural beings too. Like I love how they keep coming back.
Yeah, the dynamic is hilarious.
What would you say is your favorite sequence in that entire movie? Whether it be just from a like pure enjoyment standpoint, or like what do you think the funniest scene is? What's your favorite part of that movie?
I think it's the end, but I don't know if I should say.
I think we can spoil it. I always tease the movie and the movies we'll be talking about in the previous episode, so people, if they haven't seen the movies we're talking about by now, then that's on them.
Okay. I think it's my favorite part is when the werewolves and the vampires are all hanging out, basically out of their mutual respect for their previously human friend. And they're just like, oh, I guess they're okay. They're not peeing on everything or whatever. I like that where, they're definitely staunchly against it. And then they slowly, they're like, oh no, dude's okay. Oh no, don't mess with him. He's our friend. And that progress is adorable because you're just like, that one guy that's new to the group and you just kind of don't like him at first, and then he's everybody's favorite.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that dynamic so much, and that guy, I don't know the actor's name, but the guy who plays Stu is great. It's just another one of those avenues where you don't think they're gonna go that route when they introduce him, and then to like see him become a werewolf and he's still essentially the same exact person just with fangs. Like I love that. Or like the reveal where Taika's character finally is able to reunite with his long lost love. There's a certain, I don't know, it's a very, there's a certain, like you said, a sort of adorable, like aw kind of quality to the movie on top of the comedy.
Yeah.
Have you seen much of the show, the spin-off show?
I have seen a little bit, and what I've seen I really enjoyed. Yeah.
That was one other thing I was apprehensive about, where I was like, I don't know if I want to see someone else's interpretation of it, but I was really happy the way they handled it. A lot of the tone of the movie is carried over in the show very, very well. I was very happy with that. I haven't seen much of it, but it's definitely that. If you're a huge fan of the movie, you won't be disappointed with the show. So definitely anyone listening, check out both of them. Which, speaking of which, if you're interested and you haven't seen What We Do in the Shadows or I'm not sure how you can watch. I think the show is on Hulu, but you can rent the movie for up to $3 on pretty much any streaming platform. The YouTube movies, Google Play, Vudu, Amazon Prime, iTunes, all that. So definitely check out What We Do in the Shadows. It's hilarious. One of my favorite comedies of all time. It's a great movie. So then, I guess moving on to the other movie, we said we would be talking about Gandahar / Light Years. With Glenn Close and I think Christopher Plummer is in it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think he might be the Metamorphosis.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. So
he's one of them.
Yeah. So that was another one that you had, again, because you stumped the chump. So we just decided because What We Do in the Shadows was on my sort of short list of possible movies to recommend. So I suggested, okay, well, since you're already familiar with these two, why don't we just talk about that? Because I know that I have a lot to say about What We Do in the Shadows. But Gandahar was one that I was not familiar with, even though I'd seen the director's other movie, Fantastic Planet, which is one of my favorite animated movies of all time. So I guess what is... tell us a little bit about what Gandahar is about.
Okay, it's about I guess you'd call him an alien, man, and well, okay, this is really hard to describe actually. Now that you ask me to describe it, he has to travel back in time to save his planet. Right?
Yeah, I think that's a good summation.
Yeah, it's just I suggested it because I thought it was obscure enough to where you might not have seen it maybe. And also it was one of my favorites when I was a kid, even though it's not a movie for kids. It was one of those rentals where like, I'm old, so I used to rent stuff at like Turtles and Blockbusters and stuff, and so I would go into the animated section and I wouldn't realize that there was like a difference between cartoons and adult cartoons. So I used to rent these adult cartoons all the time by accident, and that was just one of them. And I just think it's fantastic. Like, my favorite characters are the unformed, or
the like weird deformed beings in the tunnels and all that.
Yeah, but I thought, didn't they call themselves the unformed? They had a cute way of saying it.
I think it was the unformed, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, they're so far out that they no longer identify with the past, present, or future. So everything is was, will be.
Mm-hmm. I really liked that. That was a nice touch to their sort of collective character.
Yeah, their consciousness doesn't lie in one specific realm, and their memory is of both the past and the future. Because if you watch the movie, it makes sense. So everything they say is like, you will be Gandaharian, I will be, Hannah, and yeah, I just thought that was the coolest.
It's a very nice little character note.
Yeah.
Are you familiar then with because the only two movies I've seen from this director is Fantastic Planet and this now. Is there more to his sort of filmography that you would have stumbled upon by seeing I guess the adult animated films, or is it are you just familiar with Fantastic Planet in this from him?
Just those two. I really didn't delve into it at all. But there's a possibility, because I've seen a lot of old 80s, and I think that one wasn't that one even made in the 70s? No, 80s.
Fantastic Planet was definitely the 70s. I think this one was more 88, yeah, something like that, yeah. But yeah, no, it's funny because you kind of mentioned it earlier, where I think that animation is kind of like stereotyped into being like a kids movie format, and there's not really many adult like animated movies, not in that way, but like there's something to be said about like communicating a story through animation that it's a very, I don't know the term for it, a very sort of open and you can do whatever you want with it type of expression, and I think it's a shame that more adult-oriented movies don't really take advantage of that aspect of it. But I think that this filmmaker, he does a really good job using animation to the aid of his stories. He's very, very good at world building without much dialogue, and sort of crafting these very like familiar but very, very much alien sort of environments through his craft. And that's one thing that I really appreciate about this movie and his other film, Fantastic Planet. It was like, it's just so easy to get immersed in what he creates and just fall into it. Like all of his movies that I've seen just like fly by, because it's just so you get so lost in it, you almost don't want it to end by the time it's over.
He does an incredible job. Actually, I think the word that we were looking for is like grown-up films, not adult films.
Yeah, that's a much better way to say it. Yeah, that's
not adult films, but like movies for grown-ups that are animation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct ourselves.
Yeah, right. This isn't that kind of show yet. But yeah, no, I really, really liked this movie a lot. Again, another thing that I think he does really well is his soundtracks. The music in this.
I was about to say that. Yeah, the people that did his soundtrack, that was the coolest soundtrack ever.
It's very, very epic.
So good. I think that's like half of the movie is just the soundtrack. It's just, and I looked up the composers and I've already forgotten their names. And I didn't realize that it was actually in French first.
Yeah, he's because I'm gonna butcher the name. It's René Laloux, I think, is the director. Fantastic Planet. He's a French director. The Fantastic Planet was in French, and then I guess they must have dubbed over this because they wanted to give it more of like a wider release. I would have, if I had to guess why, but and it's a shame because I literally have not heard about this film at all prior to you recommending it, and then when I saw that it was another one of his movies, I got really excited because I love Fantastic Planet so much. So yeah, no, it's just and again, like you said, the soundtrack it just aids in your ability to just get lost in it so much because again, a lot of the way that he kind of makes his movies is very much just there's the one kind of pet peeve I have when I'm watching a movie is if it's like a sci-fi or futuristic setting, you fall into the trap of like having the characters need to like explain like what the technology is or what they're doing or what's going on, and he doesn't really hold your hand at all. Like it just is all completely visual, and the music just sucks you in. It's just so good.
You either go with it or you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites, and it holds up. I watched it not too long ago. I watched it again, and I was just like, yeah, this is still good. It's like, dur, 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 dur.
Yeah, the one other question I was gonna sort of ask was, I wish I had written it down, but I saw it in your demo reel. There was one performance that you had that was sort of like this futuristic character. You had like a laser coming out of your hand and like sort of like black makeup going down your chin. That you were, I forget what it was, but it was I was a
cyborg.
You were a cyborg, yeah. I hadn't seen that one. I only saw the clips of the demo reel. But did did this movie influence that performance at all, with the metal men and the way they sort of carry themselves?
No, but maybe it did subconsciously. Yeah, that one was called Dandelion, and that was a short film by director Chance White, written by Todd Jacobs. And I did the festival circuit, and I don't know where you can see it. But yeah, that trailer was badass. Wasn't it?
Yeah.
I love that trailer. That was fun. I played such a freak in that movie. And I enjoyed it a lot. That makeup that they did and the prosthetic with the laser, with laser beams coming out of my forehead. They painted my ears black, and they painted inside my ears black, and it took so long to get that paint out. And I tried to get some of it off before I was going to drive home, and I couldn't get it all off. And I was just like, whatever, it'll come off in the shower. I'm just going to go home. And I'm just like at the gas pump, still half in wardrobe with this crazy black makeup on and laser beams coming out of my forehead. And I just remember trying to hide in a hoodie. So I didn't get like, questioned. And then another time, actually, this has happened to me 3 times. So when I was coming back from shooting the role of Satan or the Antichrist or whatever in it's a silly Antichrist, by the way. It's not like a villain.
Again, another one I'll have to check out if I can find it.
Yeah. In Robert's movie, I had like this upside down cross type makeup across my entire face. It's really goofy. Anyway, I had gotten most of it off, but then again, I was tired and it's been a long day, and I was just like, I'll just shower when I get home, and I literally got pulled over. I don't drive poorly. I really don't. It was just like, sorry, I'm an actor. This is just, I got most of it off, but it's just, I just looked like a crazy person. There was another instance. Well, actually, this was, if you want to know, this was the first movie that I did when I was a teenager.
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
It was a comedy, and it was about these crooks that were very bad at what they did, and they owed money to a loan shark. and they would dress up in these different costumes and try to rob this bank. And I was the bank teller and also the love interest, and of one of the main crooks. And so they would dress up in these different outfits, and they do like the presidents, and then they dressed up as the Klan, and they had all these big heavy looking completely fake weapons, and they were going into the building that was the bank building, and some people driving by thought that the Klan was actually doing something to this poor building with all these scary looking. I mean, the weapons did not really look like weapons. They looked like some Star Wars crap. But anyway, like really over the top, silly looking. But so the police show up, and they walk in, and they're like reaching for their guns or firearms, whatever you call them. And they're like, take off your hoods. And I'm just cringing behind my fake desk, like, oh my. And so all the guys pull off their Klan hoods, and like half of them are black. And the cops are just like,
what?
And we're like, we're making a movie, see? And like the camera was still going, so they actually got the cops on footage. And it was so funny. Their reaction, and then the police just started cracking up. And it was just, so that was another instance of movie making, indie movie making with police involvement.
That'd be an amazing blooper to track down. If anyone knows if that blooper exists anywhere, I would love to see that.
I think they were shooting on film. I think they were shooting on proper film. So I don't know. I see, like that movie. I said that movie never got made, but I could reach out. That was one of Ben Morgan. Ben Barak is another name he goes by, but film that he was making. And I think I heard a rumor they actually did finish it and it did well in Nigeria, but I think that's a lie. I don't believe that. But that's like 20 years old now. So.
Oh man. Well, either way, it's a hilarious story. And all of that is to say that Gandahar is a great animated film that a lot of people should check out if they get the chance. I'm not sure. What's that?
Was I not supposed to go off on tangent?
No. I love that. I love when that happens. It happens again way more often than where I'll spark it. But those were really funny stories. I liked hearing that. But yeah, no. So Gandahar, that's another. I wish that there was an easier way to find it, but the way I watched it, I'm sure you can buy a DVD of it, but there was a version of it on YouTube that I was able to watch. So if you want to go check it out, I guess go find it on YouTube. Again, I'm sure there's a DVD available. Definitely support these movies any way that you can. Even though I don't think the director's even alive anymore, actually, that's probably not a good thing to support the work. Okay. So, definitely go check out Gandahar, Fantastic Planet's also great. We talked about that movie back in episode 16. René Laloux he's an amazing director, and I love anything he does. So thank you very much for exposing me to that film. It was a very, very good experience, and I liked it a lot.
I'm glad. Yeah, I didn't even think about how you might come about finding it. I still have it on VHS.
Oh wow! Is it like the instance where it's like the video store closed down and you still have like the sticker on it where it's like "Be kind, rewind," or is that?
I don't remember. Maybe.
It's such a relic. Because I was around for the sort of the tail end of like as video stores were going out of style, but I really wish that those were more readily accessible. There's just something like, I don't want to say magic, but there's definitely like this like good feeling about like going to a store and, like you said, like walking through the aisles and seeing all the posters and the DVD covers and just being like, oh man, which one of the, like you don't get the same effect when you're just scrolling through Netflix or Amazon Prime. It's
It's a lost feeling. I don't think that the next generations are gonna have any idea. There should be a word for that in German. You know, like the feeling of walking through Blockbuster and appreciating tiny boxes.
I wish.
So, like the sheer joy of it.
Yeah. It's the kids these days will never know.
We should make up a word for it. Like, I don't know. Like cinema Fignugan.
Yeah, perfect. Now the Merriam-Webster people, if you're listening, go back and.
Nine, she butchered it.
So yeah, I guess that's about everything that I wanted to go over. So that brings us to the end of this episode of the Watchlist Podcast. Hannah, thank you so much for doing this. It means the world to me. Best of luck in all your future projects. I'm definitely going to be first in line to see anything you make. I'm a big fan of yours, and I just keep on making great movies.
Thanks. Can I plug an Indiegogo that's going on right now?
Of course, yeah. I think I saw you shared that the other day on your Twitter.
Yeah, I think it's an Indiegogo. Anyway, it's for this movie called Time's Up, and it's a horror that I actually would watch. I like the script so much, and it's a horror movie that we're going to shoot in January, and I think they just need a little extra funding. So they're doing that right now, and I think they're doing it on Facebook, but they're on Twitter, like I said, and or like you said, and on Instagram, and yeah, the links are there, and yeah, I'm about to shoot this feature on location in September, so keep an eye out for that too.
How are you involved with are you acting in the Indiegogo project, or are you more, or is it like, yeah. Okay, gotcha. I thought I misheard you for a second, but yeah, and what's the Indiegogo called again?
It's for the movie Time's Up. Time's
Up. So yeah, okay, definitely you look up that, contribute to that movie's success any way you can. I definitely will once we're done recording here. But again, just thank you so much for being on the show. It means a lot.
You're welcome, Jacob. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So then, for anyone listening, tune in next time. I'm going to have to do a little bit of editing here. I don't actually know who the next guest is going to be or what movies we're going to be talking about, so this part is entirely superfluous, and I'll just dub over it later. But check out, next time we're going to have somebody on, and we're going to talk about 2 more movies like we always do. So, again, thank you, Hannah, very much, and thank you guys for watching the Watchlist Podcast. We'll see you next time.